Hello and welcome to the Irn-Cru, an NFL podcast made in Scotland and Canada. We are the review crew for week 9, and with me this week I've got Mr. Kevin Cogill. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Stu. Yourself?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Just loving life. I had a good little trip to the zoo yesterday with the kids and amongst watching the football. And we saw a lot of the creatures that we'll be talking about. Some of the teams are named after today. What about yourself? Do you get up to much at the weekend?
Yeah, I had a busy weekend. Trip to Edinburgh Dungeons on Saturday, and then yesterday I was at a show about the universe, the concert hall in Glasgow. So, yeah, it made it tricky keeping up with the football, but I managed to do all right. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting about it with you.
I'm going to say, so talking like all pretty deep stuff with the universe, and then with Edinburgh Dungeon, we could get into some teams that may feel like they are trapped in a dungeon.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So no, obviously lots going on this weekend, and post the weekend there's been lots happening too. A few coaching firings or change. I was going to say changes, but it's more we don't know what the changes are exactly yet. But a few guys let go, but we'll maybe get into that when once we start talking about the teams here. So let's not really kind of hang around. Let's just kind of roll right into this and get this going. So we're heading all the way back long ago to Thursday night now. It feels like almost a week ago. Even though it was only 4 short days, and we're heading back to talk about the Jets versus the Texans. Of course, like heading into this one, we had two teams kind of sitting at very, very opposite kind of sides of things. The Texans winning their division, maybe not quite looking the offensive powerhouse that they have or they had last year under Stroud, but still getting things done, winning games, playing fantastically, and all that. On the other side of the ball, you've got the New York Jets, who came into this year with such high hopes. The fans are all saying, you know what, this could be a year that we compete with. Aaron Rodgers is healthy. We've got all these new offensive weapons. All the Aaron Rodgers friends are in town. They, of course, traded for Devontae Adams recently to add another Aaron Rodgers friend, and they still can't quite win. So heading into this week, there's a lot of chat of like, well, what's going to happen here? Like, how are the Jets going to be? How are the Texans going to be? The bookies had it as the Texans being a strong favourite. Now, did you watch this one, Kevin? And what were
Yes,
your
I've seen most of the game. Albeit it was at a very early hour over here. But yeah, I must say I didn't give the Jets much chance going into it. I thought, having watched them in London a few weeks back, it looked like just something wasn't quite right there. Like you say though, they've added another quality piece in their offense, and Devontae Adams, and I must admit that yeah, they look like they're starting to put it together. The 1-2 they've got a wide receiver now. Brees Hall at running back, obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback, and they've always had defense. Their defense is quality. So yeah, things are actually starting to look good for them. However, I think it might just be a little bit too late with the record that they're sitting on right now. I think that they're going to have to be pretty much perfect here on out if they're going to have any chance of making the playoffs. But a good win for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, like you say, like Aaron Rodgers, like looking at the box score here, like and even watching the game itself, like I thought he looked more like what the Aaron Rodgers that we expected to see, or maybe the Aaron Rodgers from a couple of years ago, like QBR rating of 124.19, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Did only throw for 211 yards, but obviously that was enough for them to do what they need to do. And yeah, like you say, I agree. The Jets defense, they looked the way the Jets defense is supposed to look. They did their job. So on the other side of the ball, the Texans, do you make of them kind of thing and how things are going? They're obviously still first in their division and everything, and there's not really much of a threat coming from behind them. We'll get to some of those other teams later on when we're talking results. But what did you make of them in this game and how they fared?
I think with the problems they've had with injuries, especially on offense, the talk at the start of the season was that there's too many mouths to feed, and how's it all going to work? And they're now, sitting there with a complete opposite problem, with two of their top three wide receivers out. So yeah, it's no surprise, I think, that they struggled a wee bit. However, what was surprising was they got themselves a decent lead, and it was just the collapse. But then again, they're up against a quality quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who's done that, time and time again. Fourth quarter, winning games for his team. And then, as I said, it's an Aaron Rodgers now that's got Wilson and Adams, as well as a premier running back in Hall. So yeah, I wasn't shocked to see them losing with the problems I've had. Obviously, Nico Collins is supposed to be coming back next week. I think
that's going to be a big add for me, because that he was playing absolutely, in terms of wide receivers. I think it took until, because he got injured when week 4.
Yeah.
Week 5 maybe. Anyway, he's been gone for a few weeks. It took at least a couple of weeks after that for another wide receiver to pass him in total yards, like on the season. And for the guy played 2 or 3 games, or 2.5 games less by the time you take the injury into consideration.
Well,
that's a big, but you're right.
Yeah.
With Diggs going out though, obviously still, I think if I'm the Texans, I would maybe still be looking to add at this point, because, like we mentioned, with their division, they're still top of it, so they're making the playoffs kind of thing. Unless something, I've just cursed them. Should make the playoffs is what I should have said there. Sorry to all the Texans fans out there. I'm about to get murdered here, but no. If I was them, I'd still be thinking about possibly adding another piece there, just because you don't want to see Nico Collins or Tank Dell going down. And
I was going to say with Collins and Dell, if Collins comes back and he's fine after his injury, with Collins and Dell, they've got enough there, especially with Mixon. I
never get changed, but I almost put my Bengals Mixon. I'm quite happy. You know what I mean? I love Mixon kind of thing, and I know he had his ups and downs and that with the Bengals, but I really liked him. I liked his attitude with the team, so I'm happy to see him doing well. And another game, 106 yards rushing.
Yeah. I actually think he's looking better in Texas than he did with you guys.
Warm weather. See, as we get older, Kev, it's getting cold here in Canada. Like, when I was walking around the zoo yesterday, I was thinking to myself, I was like, hey, what? I don't feel as springy as normal today. So,
but so I think that was a big. Although they were fun last year, they had Collins and Dell balling out. They had a great young rookie quarterback who was playing outrageous football. That was the one place they were lacking. They had Pierce, who in his rookie season was outstanding, and he just failed to deliver last year. He fell off a cliff, and that's one area that they were really lacking. So with Mixon there, if they can keep those other 2 wide receivers fit, I think they'll be fine. One thing we've not mentioned about the game yet, though, was Wilson's new sports logo catch.
No, that was fantastic. I loved everybody make the comparisons to same field, same style as the OBJ one a few years back. But that was absolutely phenomenal. And again, that's why we all love the NFL. It's the athleticism and the fact that these people are the peak of the game. But maybe Wilson
was he in though? Was he in, Stu?
You know what, in the CFL he would have been, because we have rules. We won't stay on this too long here, but I do have some strong thoughts on what is a touchdown. With the whole breaking the plane and losing the ball, that still counts as a touchdown in a lot of cases, versus being in the end zone, catching the ball and maybe getting the foot down, like Pickens last week as well, where he tapped his right foot twice. He didn't put his left foot down, so it doesn't count, kind of thing. So I'm not saying that under the rules, probably maybe shouldn't count, but I think maybe they need to relook at what constitutes getting your foot down and then having, if you've got control of the ball, which he did, and you've had that foot come down. And I like offense as much as I love kickers and all that, but I just love points in general. So to me, I would I'd be looking at possibly thinking about rule changes in future, especially with the Pickens one. If you can tap that foot twice, then I'm like, why can't that count?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who saw that catch and wanted it to be a touchdown. Everybody's happy it was called a touchdown, unless you're a Texans fan. But yeah, that was definitely the highlight of the game.
Yeah, so nope, sounds good. And now staying in Texas, we're going to move. Or they didn't play in Texas, but staying with the Texas team, we're moving on to one of the big talking points from the early window yesterday. We are going to Atlanta. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons were up against the Dallas Cowboys, who I realise there was a bit of change in the summer, but as always, high hopes for Dallas heading into the season. And it's just not really worked out for them at all. Kev, what do you make of how things are going in Dallas? And then we'll get to Atlanta after that, because we should probably talk about how things are going there too.
Yeah, well, in Dallas, I've got a lot of sympathy for them. That's a lie. I don't. No, that's a lie. Yeah, I think it's difficult to kind of pinpoint what it is that's gone wrong. Obviously Dak's kind of struggling big time right now.
Kev, could it be something to do with the rushing game? Maybe.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, they're trying all sorts there, aren't they? To try and get that working. Since Zeke's kind of got on a bit, they've not really found a replacement. I thought Rico Dowdle's actually been doing all right. I think he's
had a great game yesterday. 12 attempts, 75 yards. Like that's 6.25 yards per attempt. And only one his longest was 15. So it's not like it's been artificially boosted by one 70-yard scramble or something at some point.
One massive breakout run. No, it's like I said. That's why I'm puzzled, because although you do think about the running game in the past, and it's been excellent, and maybe that is where they're lacking. But then I don't think Dowdle's been all that bad. So I just think maybe there's maybe the balance is missing, or they need another a genuine foil to CeeDee Lamb. Maybe they're just teams are expecting them to go to him, doubling up on him. They don't really have a genuine alternative to him. In the air.
Yeah, like Ferguson, the tight end. I'm a big fan of him, kind of thing. I'm a big kind of Jake Ferguson truther. So he's good. And yet again, yesterday, 7 receptions for 71 yards. I think as well. So it's he had a pretty good. In fact, that's the best performance by any of their receivers. But yeah, apart from that, there's 8 receptions for Lamb, but he's only getting 47 yards. So that kind of says to me, it's like he is getting the ball. He's making the catches, but the defense are getting to him and they're double teaming him, and they're able to. He's not getting those yards after catch in games like this.
Yeah. We play them next week, I believe, as well. So hopefully their troubles continue for at least one more week. But let's be honest, though, that they're playing against a really good team. The Falcons have really impressed me so far this year. So as much as I want to just beat up on the Cowboys, I don't think it's necessarily any huge concern that they lost that game. It's just the fact that the record where they are right now, they're behind where they would expect to be at this stage. And if we can beat them next week, then they're in a whole world of trouble.
100%. Because I mean, you look at the other problem for them. Just to mention this briefly before we head to the Falcons, was the news coming out that Dak does have an injury.
I heard that. Yeah.
To me, it sounds like we're not going to be playing against the Eagles next week. So I won't curse you by saying you're guaranteed a win by any stretch of the imagination, because we've seen backups come in and do well before, and including Cooper Rush, who he's maybe not been as good this year, but he's not exactly a complete lemon.
No,
I still think the Cowboys are in tough though, heading into next week. But
I think the thing is, depending on how bad Dak's injury is, if he misses the game next week and they lose, then you just wonder, is there much point in bringing him back? Because their season might be pretty much over if he misses a couple of games and they lose them both. So
yeah, you're then looking at, well, what do we do here? We're fast approaching the trade deadline. So actually, just before we go to the Falcons, are the Cowboys going to be sellers? The deadline. Jerry does it.
I don't. I mean, you just never know. There's all sorts of talk flying about every time a player becomes available. They're linked with the Cowboys, so you just don't know. Like they could be sellers. It would probably make sense if their season's over, try and get some draft capital. But on the other hand, you wouldn't be surprised if they go and try and bring more players in. It's impossible to say, I think.
I mean, I look at the division for them, and you obviously have yourselves. You're second place in the division. You have played one game less.
Yeah.
And the Commanders, you're 6-2, and then the Commanders are sitting first, 7-2.
Yeah.
And just by virtue of where the Commanders finished last year, they have a slightly easier kind of row to hoe than the Cowboys do for the rest of this year. Cowboys are sitting 3-5. So even when I look across the rest of the NFC, they're on the outside looking in for the wild card as well. And I don't know how easy you've got. Niners are Seahawks are 4-5, spotting in a bit. Niners 4-4, Rams 4-4. Bucks are second place their division 4-4. Packers are 6-3 in theirs. Even the Bears 4-4. So it's there's a lot of teams that have more wins than them that are also outside the wild card spots currently and maybe have an easier schedule.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys are worried. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, like I said, I just think where they're at in the season, that was a massive game. It was almost a must-win for them. The fact that they lost it, and there's no shame in losing it to the Falcons, as we'll come on to in a minute. But the fact that they have lost that now, Dak's potentially going to be missing games. I think that they're in real trouble.
100%. But yeah, like you say, moving to the Falcons, Kirk Cousins, another great game kind of thing. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, QBR rating 155.21. That's like Jared Goff levels. He's right up there. Completion percentage of 79.167%. That is like Jared Goff levels. Right up. Only 19 passes completed, of course, at that point, but that was all he needed to do to kind of get the win. Just both sides of the ball for me, though. The Falcons have looked good. The defense has been, fairly solid all year. They have that kind of passing attack. Sure, Kyle Pitts didn't do all that much. Drake London was slightly quieter than normal. But Darnell Mooney, what have you made of him so far this year? It's is he a legit too?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is. Yeah, and the thing is, he's landed in a great spot where there's so many other offensive players to take the heat off him when it comes to coverage, and more importantly, he's landed in a spot where he's got a proper quarterback, an elite quarterback, and everything's on the up and up for the Falcons right now.
Oh, Kirk Cousins an elite quarterback.
I did.
I love Kirk Cousins, but I mean, that's quite a statement, Kev. I don't know how many elite quarterbacks there are in the league, but I don't know. I have him in a higher tier, but I don't know if the elite quarterbacks. I don't know. I won't force us too far off the point here, but elite for me, we're talking Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen.
Right.
Mahomes. I'm going to put him there, even though this year he's not been as good as he was. And then I want to put Burrow in here. Is he, where do we say he's truly elite? I mean, I'm going to say he's elite because I'm a Bengals fan. Then I have Jalen Hurts in that very, very good next tier kind of down. I would have him in there with some of the others, but I don't know if I even have
Cousins in that tier, no?
Cousins there, or maybe. No, maybe not. I have him as very good. I have a skill of averaging up because I'm not actually that mean. I can never say people are bad. Various levels are good, but no. Anyway, I'll let you continue. Cousins elite.
Do you know? I'm having a bit of a laugh at Smudger's expense because I know he didn't really want him to leave Minnesota. So I'm sure he'll be. I'm sure. Darnold's been all right, but yeah, no, I think Cousins is it's just he's landed in a great spot. He's playing probably some of the best football of his career. And as I said, the Falcons they had a lot going for them, but they were missing that piece. They were missing a quarterback that could deliver the sort of performances that Kirk Cousins is. And we thought when they got Bijan Robinson and they got Kyle Pitts, and we thought, oh, here we go. This could be a really good team. And without the quarterback, it just wasn't working. But it seems like now that they've got Cousins in place, that performance yesterday just showed how good they can be.
100%. Yeah, I think on that note though, we'll move on to another game which had some really good kind of quarterback play that we'll kind of get to as like one of the highlights of the game for it. It is the Titans versus the Patriots. So this one went to overtime, ending 2017 to the Pats, just to spoil that bit on the advance. But from the Patriots, their year was kind of over before it began. I think even the fans knew that. Nobody was really expecting all that much from them. But I don't know if you want to speak a little bit just about how you've kind of seen, or what you've seen of Drake May so far since they've kind of moved him to starter instead of Brissett.
So I mean, I like the look of him. I think he looks like a good young quarterback. He's going to need time. They're going to. They're not going to win a lot of games. They're going to lose more than they win, obviously. So I think if they can just be patient, don't expect too much, and just let them play, let them gain that experience in the league, then they could be on a winner with me, I think.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, because like for me, I think the Patriots, like their biggest issue, and I realise they're selling part of the defence. That's becoming more of an issue each day. Their biggest issue is the O-line, and obviously if you want to watch your quarterback's not getting hit too much and all that, and I realise that's one of the reasons they started the year with Brissett instead, was they wanted to ease Drake May in and make sure he wasn't kind of getting knocked around too much. But eventually it came to the point where they'll let, what, we may as well see what we have in this guy, and that's why he's in. But obviously looking at the raw numbers in the game yesterday, like 206 yards off 29 completions, 41 attempts. He threw a touchdown and then 2 interceptions. So like, not great, but he is a rookie quarterback, and that's what you expect. But that touchdown though, like, what a play kind of thing. Like, he kept that alive for as long as he did, and then they throw the touchdown, and he throws the touchdown, that gets them to overtime as well. What I took from that, like, that I think should be a big positive to all the Pats fans out there, is him stepping up in that moment and doing exactly what he needed to do. The guy, he has the brain and all that, and it is just going to come as a point where, as the Pats rebuild, which we all know that's what's going on, once they start rebuilding that offensive line, and he gets a bit more time, and he maybe gets like a few more weapons, he can only grow from there. The key will be keeping him on his feet though until they get to that stage. They don't want to turn him, into
that's the big.
they don't want to be a sacrificial lamb, basically.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if they can keep him healthy, then he'll only benefit from the experience he's getting right now. And I mean, I know he threw two interceptions, but he kept him in a game. He put on a play. So I think he'll probably get better as the season goes on. And like you say, if they can get him some protection next year, maybe an extra weapon or two, then it'd be interesting to see how it goes next season.
100%. Now on the other side, on the Titans side, and this is, I'm not meaning to kind of start bashing the Cowboys again here, but you had Tony Pollard, 28 rushing attempts, 128 yards, like no touchdowns, of course. He wasn't actually kind of driving the ball home, but that's bell cow numbers, and that's what had him. And they decided, you know what, this guy's not good enough. We're just going to let him go. He's looked pretty decent for me this year on a poor Titans team.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, he's one of the bright spots for them, I would say. They're another team that's obviously kind of looking to rebuild. They're selling up, letting all their better players go for last season. So he has been one of the big bright spots for them. But again, it's hardly a game that that they'll be like partying that they got the win. It's an easy game that they would have expected to win.
Yeah, but still, for me though, I still look at that. It's like this the learning to win thing too. So the Titans have to look at it that way. Whereas for the Pats, I think they have to be quite happy as well that they pushed it to overtime and they saw some great plays from their own quarterback.
Yeah.
Now moving on, another game of quarterbacks and a quarterback coach being fired as a result, and an offensive coordinator being fired after it as well. Which, although I don't know if it was so much to do with the winners doing it to them or just the general disarray that you have at that team, but we are heading to the Raiders at my very own Bengals. Obviously, I was pretty happy with how the game went. But big result. We put up 41 points, beat the Raiders 41-24. Defense, just to speak quickly about the Bengals, defense still looks to be an issue. The BJ Hill injury, I've not seen an update since, but I know he left the game. The fact he's already missed time this year, and our run defense is absolutely abysmal to start with, even with him in it. That doesn't bode well for where we're heading this week, which is Baltimore to play Derrick Henry. We still have him in 2 fantasy teams, so hooray, I guess. But anyway, quarterback play wise though, Joe Burrow just went in this game, he looked mad, but concentrated mad, and I could tell from the very first, for the start of the game, I'm like, he's out here to prove a point, and prove a point he did, because he went off kind of thing. So only 251 yards total passing, but 5 TDs. And then 1 interception, which obviously isn't great, but still a 5-to-1 ratio. That's good, kind of thing. There was also one where Chase dropped the ball too, where if he'd held that, we would have had another first down, and we were pushing down the field, and we had to settle for a field goal there, so we maybe could have even run the score up a little bit more. So this one felt like a get-right game after last week, where we just damp squib against you. No, take nothing away from the Eagles. The Eagles totally deserve to win it. Other big points for me in the game, Mike Gesicki. It's another 100-yard game, 2 touchdown display for him. So it's like he seems to finally be the receiving tight end that we need. And to me, I think he has pushed himself as, we're not even really playing him as a tight end. He's really the WR3. I think he's made the case that it's him after Chase and Higgins when Higgins is healthy. He's the guy, and I'm happy with that because we have Sample and those other dudes can do the blocking tight end stuff. The Raiders, I just wanted to get you to, I've kind of just waxed lyrical about how great the Bengals were, but I wanted to kind of get you to speak a little bit about, just clearly things are in disarray there. What do you do at this point? They've had Minshew playing, they've had O'Connell playing. O'Connell wasn't even dressed yesterday. It was Riddle that came in at the end of the game and actually threw a touchdown as well for them. But what do you make of the Raiders, and what do their fans do?
Well, I don't know what you do. Just to enjoy the bevy session, enjoy the tailgates, I suppose, for the rest of the year, because there's not much to enjoy on the field. But I said a few weeks ago, it's just an absolute tire fire. They're a shambles at the minute. I suppose they've let Adams go. They're pretty much, they've got to just be in kind of full reset mode now. There's no point in trying to figure it out, and they just got to rip it up and start again for me. They don't seem to know what they're doing. They have no idea. So for me, I think it's just a case of rip it up and start again.
Aye, Studs will be loving it as a Chiefs fan, because I think he loves watching the Raiders losing. But
suffer.
You're saying rip it up, but it's, if you think about it, that's what they were trying to do when they moved on from Derek Carr. They were in one of those situations where they were like, okay, we've got a guy who probably can't win us a Super Bowl, but we're in a situation where we'll probably go, 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins a year, possibly get into the playoffs, and then anything can happen depending on injuries. You have Max Crosby, who's an absolute game breaker, we know that, but they got rid of Derek Carr, and the plan was at that point they thought, okay, well, we'll just go with journeyman for a bit here, and then we'll rebuild, and we'll just grab a guy in the draft. But they've not been able to do it. Or like they seem to always end up by going that. They kind of seem to be almost going the middling route, where they're not in the position to take a guy that can do it for them, or they get gazumped by people going early, like quarterbacks year. So
that's what I mean. It's like they've not got any real. They don't seem to have any real strategy. They've lost. One of the better running backs in the league a couple of years ago. They've let Carr go. Now they've traded away Adams, but what are they doing? Like like I said, they might as well just completely tank, try and get draft capital, for whoever they've got that the other teams will take. But they just don't seem to be. They seem to be in the like no man's land, like you say. That's kind of no real strategy there. I can't understand it myself watching them. I just think it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's a shame because I mean I do think. Like, I know Studs will maybe not agree with this, but I do think the Raiders do have one of the more fun fan bases. Maybe not the best fan base, but like one of the more fun fan bases in the league. And I would always kind of like to see them do well. I do think there's a bit of a soft spot memory for like how good the Raiders were in the '90s and that whole kind of. We're just out for ourselves, and we're not one of the big boys, but we just do our thing. Like their fan base has attitude, and it's the pirate thing. They lean into being pirates, and I like pirates. So I'd love to see them doing well, but I don't know where they go from here. But moving on from that game, let's head to where the Bengals will be heading next after our win this week, and we're heading there on Thursday night. So we're going to go to Baltimore, where the Baltimore Ravens were up against the Denver Broncos. Of course, heading into this game. Broncos they may still actually be in it, but like they were in a wild card spot, and everybody's looking at them going like, "Oh, Sean Payton's got them going." Like they have one of the better defensive units in the league, and they were coming up against the Ravens, who have one of the best, if not the best, offensive units in the league. The Ravens' defense has struggled, so there was some thoughts from some quarters. I saw a few people saying, "Oh, there's a chance for an upset here," especially after what the Browns did to the Ravens a few weeks back. All that as well, but that was not to be, was it, Kev?
No, absolutely not. No, Zay Flowers just had a game. Derrick Henry done what Derrick Henry does. Lamar, everything on offense just seemed to click for Baltimore. And when that happens, it doesn't matter who you're playing. They're not going to get much joy, but. I must say one of the bits of the game that I did enjoy was Bo Nix, his receiving touchdown.
Yeah, I always love like a bit of trick play. I mean, that's that. Yeah, so Cortland Sutton, who was sitting on a few of my benches this week, got massive. Yeah. A good game receiving wise as well. But yeah, one complete, one attempt, one completion, 100%, 2 yards for a touchdown. So he gets a QBR rating 118.75. One of the better rates this week outside of the those kind of guys we were talking about earlier. So it was nice for Bo Nix to get his receiving touchdown. He had a good day rushing as well, like 36 yards off 6 attempts. That's an average of 6 yards per carry. So Bo Nix, utility knife. There he is. He's like the Hill.
All right. The future Taysom Hill.
Yep, future Taysom Hill there. So yeah, Cortland Sutton, like just speaking on the reception side as well, 122 yards, no touchdowns, but obviously that one he threw through the air. So, but still on the wrong side of a 41-10 drubbing to Baltimore, which I guess there's no shame in losing to the Ravens, but the Broncos, they do have to look at it and go like, you know what, even when the Ravens started kind of rolling out some of the reserves, the Broncos got nowhere. They put up no points.
Yeah, right.
So that's very much get in the dressing room, get changed, and go in the bus quick and get out of Baltimore kind of situations there. So again, no shame to losing to one of the better teams in the conference, but not exactly what Peyton would probably have been hoping to see from his Broncos. Heading into that game, I think he probably knew they were going to lose, but we're probably hoping for a closer affair.
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, their defense has been really good. But like I said, I think maybe that's part of the problem. I think that the Ravens were well up for this. They knew they were coming up against a defense that's been playing really well, and making it difficult. And they were all at it. They were on their A game, and they're great to watch when they're like that.
Yeah, I mean, even that's the thing though, is like just to speak a little bit to how good the Broncos' defense has been. Even after that loss, like they're still like net points plus 22, like 183 points for, and then only 161 points against, kind of thing. So, and 41 of those came in one game,
One game.
and
Yeah.
they've played another 8. So it just shows you how good they were doing until they came up against probably one of the top, if not the top, offenses in the league. Like as we roll through things here. But anyway, speaking of rolling through, we'll move on from that one, and we're going to another team with a top defense. The Cleveland, no, sorry, not the Cleveland Browns. They lost. The other team in the game, Los Angeles Chargers. So LA Chargers, they were playing against the Browns. Of course, Brian had high hopes for this one. Jameis Winston looked so good last week. He was pushing. Brian was kind of saying he might be in the MVP conversation, I believe, kind of heading into the rest of the season. But he maybe took a bit of a step back this week when he came up against a Harbaugh, a Jim Harbaugh defense kind of thing, and the Browns lost 27-10. What do you make of, where did the Browns go? And then also, or maybe let's start with the Chargers, just because, Herbert looked more like Herbert of old. Threw
Yeah.
touchdowns, 282 yards, 134.41 QBR. Would you Chargers?
They were, they were good. They were good. I think their defense though helped a lot. On the day, their defense was excellent.
Yeah.
And yeah, coming up against a Browns team who are struggling to put points on the board all season. So people are saying change out the quarterback. Winston maybe did look slightly better last week, or in fact, a lot better, but that wouldn't be hard. But yeah, their problems are bigger than their QB. As much as the quarterback wasn't doing great, he was he wasn't getting any protection at all, and I don't think it matters who you put in there right now. They're going to struggle. So yeah, the Chargers they just done a professional job, but like I said, their defense was good against a toothless offense, and then yeah, that kind of took the pressure off the offense, and Herbert performed more like we know he can.
Yeah, no, I think I also kind of like the fact from the Chargers' point that they were, Herbert was flinging it around. It's like I know that, like, obviously Lad McConkey, like seems to have emerged as a WR1 in that situation, which many folk thought he would, like after being drafted in the summer, and seems to have come to fruition here. But yeah, there was 9 players in total that it was thrown to. Like obviously J.K. Dobbins kind of taking a couple of those, like sort of dump offs kind of thing behind the back, but the fact that like Herbert, I like him as a quarterback, and I just like the fact that he is able to. It's kind of a bit like Joe Burrow too. Like he'll be able to produce regardless of who's in there, wide receiver, as long as they're able to. As long as that guy can grab the ball, they don't need to be the best at like getting beyond that, but he'll find an open guy.
Yeah.
Point, but yeah, the Chargers though, like they have to feel good, kind of thing. Like in terms of. This is still just like for me. I look at them and go, "This is a building year." But now you're after that win, like you're sitting 5-3. You have, I believe, the best defense in the entire. Yeah, 100. They've only conceded 101 points so far through 8 games. Next best after that is the Steelers, who are 119 after 8 games as well. But they're right up there. They're top in the league kind of thing. For defence, they're building well, and they now seem to. Lad McConkey's emerging. So to me, I just look at it and go, they're definitely building towards something. And right now, the way it sits, it's like, well, they are in they're in a wild card spot, or they're probably going to make the playoffs. They have a fairly easy run. I know they need to play the Chiefs again, but just by virtue of their strength of schedule, they have a fairly easy run to the end of the year, so they have to be feeling good.
Yeah, definitely. I think McConkey, he's been excellent for them, and if there is a conversation to be had about Rookie of the Year, then he's going to be in it. I don't think there's really conversation to be had though.
Yeah,
It's a
we'll get
certain
to another
quarterback
guy.
a certain quarterback in my division's got that sewn up already, I think. But yeah, if it wasn't for Daniels, then I think we'd certainly be talking about him in that conversation. And the biggest thing I can say about this game for the Chargers is, you've seen what happened to the Ravens fairly recently, coming up against the Browns. So as much as it's a game that they would be expected to win, in my opinion, you've still got to go out there and perform. And yeah, they're doing a really good job right now. Just keeping rolling, getting wins on the board.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I think that's a good summary of it all there. Now moving on, we're heading to Carolina and are one of the much maligned Big Cat teams. So Carolina Panthers versus the much, even more so maligned New Orleans Saints, because I think everybody knew the Panthers were probably not going to have the best of years again. But the Saints, yep, they're in that kind of also, another one of those teams that's kind of like the Raiders, like they kind of caught themselves in that weird hole of, well, we're turning over the roster, but we're not doing it too much. And we could maybe still do stuff. We're in a weak division. We can maybe make the playoffs. And here they are after this week where they lost 23-22 to the Panthers. And they now sit 2-7 overall, which is tied with the Panthers. The Panthers obviously ahead of them with the head-to-head deciding factor there. Saints, not in a good way. Probably can't feel great about this. What do you make of their situation? And any comments on the game?
Well, on their situation, I'm slightly embarrassed because I'm sure at one point I pointed to the win we had over the Saints earlier in the season as a good sign. Turns out it means nothing. So everybody's doing it, but I think they're a bit unlucky because they did start the season well. Carr was playing great. But they've had injuries. Obviously, they've been missing Carr for a while. They were missing Taysom Hill, who gives defenses a lot of different things to think about when he's playing. He had a decent game this week when he came back, and then obviously they've had problems with Olave as well. So they're struggling a bit to keep all their pieces or their main pieces on the offense healthy, and they don't. They've not got an embarrassment of riches like some teams in the league. So they need all those guys to be fit. They need all those guys to be playing well to get results. And and the thing is, Carolina, I've got to say, I do quite enjoy watching them. As much as they've been awful in terms of picking up wins, on any given day, they've got players there that can score. A lot of points. The big surprise for me is the fact that they've traded away one of their better wide receivers and still managed to get a win. That would be my big.
I think we probably need to give a bit of a shout out. Like, obviously, great for Bryce after all the stuff that happened with Bryce Young and the way views of him being mismanaged and everything. It was nice. He didn't have the most fantastic game again or anything like that, but he managed to get the second win of his career, second win of the Panthers season. Dalton had the other one, obviously, this season. Then Leggett as well, reception touchdown for him, so that was nice to see, kind of thing. Again, didn't have a huge game, only put up 33 yards, but he did not too bad. And then, of course, my guy from just down the road, Chuba Hubbard, he had a couple of rushing touchdowns again. I do think, for Chuba, he has to be getting moved somewhere, I guess, because they do have Brooks is coming.
Yeah,
he was scheduled to kind of come back. Everybody was saying maybe not week 8 like this week, but we're saying definitely by week 10 he's probably. Yeah. And you have to think he's their running back of the future. Chuba's contract's not that big, so to me, I'm thinking, he has to have some trade value now. Looking for a dependable running back that just seems to always put up yards regardless of what's playing in front of him or around him. But,
Dallas, maybe?
I mean, it depends on whether they think they're still in it or not. But
Yeah. But I mean, like you say, yeah, Chuba, he's the sort of guy that could go there and do a job, and definitely, I think there's plenty of teams that would be interested if he was available, because he is that good. Yeah, for me, the question about Brooks though, like, it's so hard to tell. He's definitely been brought in there to be the number one, but we've talked about it quite a lot in our group chat. There's been several guys that have been brought in there to oust Chuba, and it's not happened. Sanders was one coming for the Eagles and going there, and couldn't get in. So yeah, I don't know if the rookie will get put straight in, especially because he's had his injury troubles so far. So I think that they might run with Chuba to the end of the season, especially when, like you say, they're not in playoff contention. So they can give the rookie like some minutes, but I wouldn't say necessarily that that he's just going to come in and take over that number one role right away.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of it's right. And I guess also the other way of looking at it too that I'm maybe kind of forgetting about is the reason that Brooks hasn't played yet is because he came into the season injured. So it's one of those things where if you're Carolina, maybe you go, you know what, we have Chuba, he is cheap. He's a running back, so as we all know, running backs don't seem to hold that much value for teams in the league. Although, of course, running backs don't have any value until you don't have a good one. So I like to look at it, kind of thing. But maybe they go, you know what, we have Chuba, we know that he produces regardless, so let's just keep him just in case Brooks is injured and Sanders continues to just not produce for whatever reason. So maybe Sanders is the one to move because, like, think about it, that might be a more realistic kind of player to think about moving on because he was good for the Eagles kind of thing, and he's not that far removed from it, and so you'd think maybe he would get a chance somewhere kind of thing. So anyway, I guess like we'll be bringing this part of the review crew to roll and stop here, and then we'll be, for those that are listening live, we'll roll straight on through. So obviously stick around. But this has been the review crew week 9 part 1 with your friends Kevin and Stu. And if you want to stick around for a little bit here, we're going to roll right into the next section where we're going to be talking about those late window games. And we'll end it right here. And hello, we're back. This is week 9, the review crew part 2, where earlier on we dealt with the early window games. This is Stuart Bell. I'm joined by Kevin Colgill. So we spoke about those early window games just a little bit there, and we're now going to be heading into the late window, or we're going to kick off here with one of the biggest games of the week. It was the Bills versus the Dolphins, the returner tour. Could the Dolphins finally get their offense going again after being completely lackluster for the other weeks? Kev, take it away. What did you see in this one?
I seen, although they lost again, I seen a lot to be hopeful for from the Dolphins. With their franchise quarterback back in the team. It's a tough match against the Bills in Buffalo. I probably, had Tua been, playing the whole time, I would have still probably fancied Buffalo to get the win there. But the fact that it took, a late field goal, a long field goal.
I was going to say, even just a late field goal, it was a 61-yard.
Yeah. So,
and he'd already missed like a PAT, but also had missed another field goal from far closer early on. So tip of the hat to Tyler Bass to be able to step up there and deliver kind of thing in that moment. But yeah, anyway,
definitely. So yeah, I mean, I think it's encouraging for Dolphins fans. Similar to what I said though about the Jets earlier on. It was interesting when we were speaking before we came on, and you mentioned the fact that these two teams are going to be playing each other. I think the Dolphins now, with everybody fit, A-Chain's been in and out with injuries. They've had, they've had wide receivers banged up as well. With everybody fit, with everybody playing this, the way they played against Buffalo there, you've got to say that they've got a chance. But with the record sitting where it's at right now, they're going to have to be almost perfect for the rest of the season. So, it'll be interesting to see how they go over the next few weeks. But good performance against Buffalo, pushed them all the way, and that's not easy, especially away.
I will say, the one thing that maybe helps the Dolphins, that a little bit here, whether it kind of gets them towards the playoff spots or that back end of the wild card field, is they do play the Jets twice. Obviously, as we spoke about in the first part of the review crew this week, the Jets all of a sudden looked like what people thought the Jets were going to look like heading into the season. So they're also seeing that uptick now with people getting healthy and guys kind of coming in and after the trade for Adams. But they play the Jets week 14, then they play them again week 18, which is kind of hilarious because normally week 18 games are kind of seen as dead rubbers, but all of a sudden you look at that one and go, maybe there's a chance. But you're right, like looking at the schedule though, that they have a break. They play the Rams next week, then the Raiders. So they have Rams, Raiders, Patriots, Packers, Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, Jets. So you're looking at that. Even if you win your two against the Jets, and you assume they beat the Browns and the Raiders and the Patriots, the Rams, that's a tough one. The Packers in Green Bay, at the end of November, basically hitting December, that's going to be a cold one. And the Dolphins travel well to the cold. Texans should be a tough one too. The Niners, that one is in Miami, so it's a home game, so that helps. But you'd think the Niners might be getting some healthy guys back then. So I do think they're in tough.
Definitely. As I said, I think it's. I think I used the term too little, too late, and I think it's the same again. Too a little, too late. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's the same for the Dolphins, unfortunately. But like I said, they'll be good to watch. It'll be interesting to see though if they do pick up another loss or a couple of losses in the next few weeks. What they do for the rest of the season, because they've got a good team there. So do they look to start selling? I don't know.
It's a tough one. Like, for me with the Dolphins, I look at it go, it's a tough one because their defense has been decent, and that's even with because when I was looking at it earlier with the points scored and against, like, they've conceded 187, but that's kind of middle of the road for the conference kind of thing, and also for the league. But the thing is they've been doing that whilst being on the field constantly because they've not had any defense, because it's basically been 3 and outs a lot of the time. When they've had Skylar Thompson and others like Huntley, that kind of coming in there, it's like, so the fact that they've limited themselves to that many points against, despite playing so much, that's a good sign. So it's like the defense is there. So would you really want to start ripping it up, moving stuff out? It's like, I don't know. Speaking as a Bengals fan, I've watched us go, you know what, we'll just rely on next guys coming in, next guys in, drafting them, or they'll all work out. So we can get rid of the older guys like Jesse Bates and all that and just expect us to still be okay. And now our big problem is our defence is absolutely rotten. So I would just say Dolphins, be very wary on letting your good defensive players go. And also, whilst you have that offence, like, I don't know. I think I'd be, at least, if you can make the money work, I'd want to hold on to it because, for at least for another year, because it was great last year. And when two is healthy, it's been good this year too. The Bills, like, looking at them, it's one of those situations where I kind of viewed this one, and I don't know if you agree or not, Kev, but it took them till that like last minute field goal to win. But that's the kind of things that the Bills sometimes didn't do before, where it's that like being able to, win at the end of it and like get it over the line.
Definitely. You
Oh,
feel as though if that was a playoff game, though, they would have missed that kick probably, and then probably conceded a late field goal.
yeah, somehow, yeah, probably something like that. But still, it's like those are all the things we're looking at and go, well, that's a tough win against with two back, a good opponent, a divisional opponent as well. So that's important. So they stretch the lead, and then also just when you consider it a bit further, going into this year, we were all saying, "Oh, the Bills' window might be closed because they were in a bit of a, this was like a sort of minor rebuild, kind of turnover of the roster. They let Diggs go, and then everyone was saying, well, who are they going to be throwing to? They traded down in the draft for, which I actually thought was a good move, even though everybody was kind of going, oh, they've just let the Chiefs get the fastest guy in the history of the universe. And
Yeah.
but you look at it, Coleman, he had a decent game again, kind of thing. Like he looked all right, and they've also added other draft picks, which means they can either draft more players later or use those picks as assets to add what they're missing, kind of thing. So it's they have a lot of the pieces there, is what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, they've definitely, like you say, that they have done like a sort of soft rebuild, if that's a term, but they've got a lot of good young players there. In this game, their young rookie running back Davis done pretty well. They've got Khalil Shakir, who's is this his third season, second or third year now. He's looking good, and like you say, they've brought in Coleman. So and they do still have capital. So yeah, realistically, things are looking good for the Bills. It's just with the players with guys like Diggs there before, they couldn't quite manage to get over the line. In the postseason, I mean, will these young guys give them something extra? Maybe they've not got the scars of the past. And the kind of trauma that some of those other guys had. I mean, obviously, you've still got a lot of players that have been involved in a lot of those playoff losses there. But like I said, some of these younger guys coming in just might give them, kind of a fresh outlook. And like you say, winning this game in the manner that they did is an encouraging sign for that point of view.
Yeah, no, I think, and then looking forward though, just like we were discussing, like terms for both of the teams, Bills are now sitting 7-2, so they're fairly, looking sitting pretty top of their division. They're healthy. The Dolphins, they're 2-6. The Jets are just above them, 3-6 for second in the division. Obviously, both teams are kind of miles outside the wildcard spots right now, so it's going to be hard for both of them. But like I say, it's like the Dolphins win those two games against the Jets. That makes up a bit of ground, and you never know what's going to happen because teams are all playing each other, so they have to kind of knock off the wins, and no win is guaranteed. And if anything, look at the Dolphins. As much as I'm saying they're in tough with their schedule, now that they have Tua back, as long as he can stay back, and obviously that's the thing too. We should probably comment on. It was great to see him back. Great to see him good and healthy and all that. But
absolutely, and yeah, we just hopefully we don't see him getting hurt like that again because it's horrible to see.
Yeah, I'd rather not watch Tua go down again because you can only do that so many times. And
when you talk it, it's going to be fascinating. I think watching how that plays out with those two teams, though, with the Dolphins and the Jets, because I think if both teams are fully healthy, Tua, is playing for the Dolphins. I probably fancy the Dolphins to beat the Jets. However, if you're talking about one of them sneaking into the wildcard spots, then I think I would probably lean towards the Jets. Making it into that wildcard spot. I don't know why, but I just feel as though like they're more likely to pick up the number of wins they need, especially when you just run through the schedule for the Dolphins. It's going to be really tough for them to get there for 2-6.
100%, and I think maybe it's just that the Aaron Rodgers effect as well. Now he has Adams back, and it's like,
we forget as well as getting Adams in there and getting the chemistry going with Wilson and Breece Hall and some of the other guys. The coaching change obviously as well. So there's things do seem to be kind of picking up for them. And like I said, if they can beat the Dolphins in those head-to-heads, then I would say they've maybe still got an outside chance. But I think it's going to be really tough for the Dolphins.
100%. But on that note, speaking of a team that it was very tough for, although they put up a bunch of points at the end here, we're going to move back to New York. New York Giants, the G-Men were up against the Commanders. So Jane Daniels, who we kind of spoke about a little bit about, or we mentioned him briefly as part of quarterbacks and rookies of the year kind of type conversation earlier on. So the Washington Commanders were playing in MetLife against the Giants, and Commanders won this one 27-22. This is one of these games where I think the scoreline is closer than what it really was in actual fact, because you had the G-Men ran up 12 points in the fourth quarter there to kind of bring it a bit closer. With the Giants, we spoke a lot about the Commanders, and it's one of those things where we can wax lyrical all day, every day. But the G-Men, what do you make of them? I think so far.
Yeah,
where did they go from here?
Yeah, there's a bit of a theme developing throughout this show right now. No, I think that the G-Men, it's tough. It's tough because I actually quite like Daniel Jones. I don't know why. Maybe because he plays for a rival and he keeps losing. Maybe that's why I like him. I've got a bit of soft spot for him. So yeah, they've now started to give him some weapons. Their defense hasn't been terrible this year. In fact, I think they've been pretty good. In all honesty, so it just depends. It depends how the owners see it. Do they see enough improvement to just keep going, keep building, to keep trying to let these guys get experience and build chemistry, or do they think, nah, this is just not working, and rip it up?
And I mean, speaking a bit about like Daniel Jones there, like in the game, 174 yards passing, so not all that much, but he threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 20 completions on 26 attempts, so he ends with a QBR of 125.87. So this was honestly one of his better days at the offense, at the office, office. And I think also had 54 yards rushing as well, so including 1 for a touchdown. So to me, I'm like, Danny Dimes had a fairly good day. Dexter Lawrence, the second, like nose tackle, he's been absolutely outstanding this year again. So he's an elite kind of defensive line guy that they probably need to keep. I think all the trade talk's been round about. I think so. Ojulari, he's they're saying if they're going to move anyone, it might be him. But I think it's one of those things where you look at it as age a factor and then go, okay, well those are maybe the ones to move. Malik Neighbours, 9 receptions, 59 yards, kind of thing. So not huge, but again, he's getting keyed on. But yeah, I think if I'm the G-Men, I kind of just go, I look at it and go, you know what, we're sort of almost out from the Daniel Jones contract, and he's okay enough in spots. So I would maybe still just ride with him for now and then see where you land in the draft next season, and if there's a player you want there, or even the year after that, so you can ride with Dimes again and just maybe take more O-line guys or more, maybe another weapon if that's what kind of lands to you, and you just
I think Neighbours has looked pretty decent, and I think he's the first proper wide receiver that Danny Jones has had, really to throw the ball to, and I think that's what I mean. It depends. Are they seeing enough right now that next year in the draft they can try and add another couple of pieces and try and keep this offense building that way, or do they go try and get another quarterback? But it's that you've seen in the last few years with teams picking up quarterbacks in the draft, it's very hit and miss. A lot of those supposed elite quarterbacks that are coming out of college get drafted in the first round, struggle really badly, go straight in. So I think maybe you keep Dimes. Maybe you do try and draft a quarterback, but you keep Dimes and sitting behind Dimes. So maybe not taking somebody in the first round, but try and just keep building that offense and see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, they actually it was quite a close run game in the end, and they've not been blown away too many times this year. The Giants either.
Yeah,
Um,
I
so
like I like Dabble. That's the thing too. Is like I don't think he's he's not a bad coach or anything like that. So that's one area where I'd go. Yes, they're 2-7, but I don't know if I would look at. He's not a guy I would consider as maybe Giants fans could disagree with me, but I don't think that Dabble's on the hot seat, shall we say, kind of thing. It's like it's not that far removed for kind of being in the coach of the year kind of conversation, or even been right up there for that. Just very quickly before we move to our game, I know we said we wouldn't really wax lyrical about them, but the Commanders, to give them their moment in the sun, like they were good, did everything they had to yet again. Jaden Daniels, another game where he's 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, QBR rating of just under 140. Like the guy, as we've mentioned, he's pushing all the buttons and doing all the things he has to do to push for the Rookie of the Year award this year. So hats off to him, and hats off to the Commanders team on the whole. It's like they're looking good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not great to see from an Eagles perspective, but yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good fun playing against them twice this year. Looking forward to those matches. I just hope we can pick up a win on their bye week so that we're level. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to nick the division. But they've been excellent, and it's a lot of that's down to the young rookie quarterback who's playing fantastic.
Exactly. So now moving on to, and like on that note, perfectly timed mentioning the Eagles there and the eventual match against the Commanders. We're going to go to the Philly Eagles at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And another thing I'm going to mention, Keith actually messaged in there to say, Kev, he's loving your new Nick Sirianni look.
Oh, is he? Aye.
You are looking sharp. I should have said that too. No mention I'm even I've lost my beard and I've just got the moustache, Keith.
I thought your Gardner Minshew look.
Aye, my Gardner. I need the long hair for that, though. I don't have that. But anyway, Eagles. So the Eagles at home, they win 28-23. Kev, what do you make of it? How are things going? You must be feeling a bit happier now than what you were earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. But to be fair, Stu, earlier in the season, I think the season preview for our division, I said that a lot was going to depend on how Jalen Hurts adapted to the new offense. And I think I also said that I felt like we would get better as the season goes on. We've got a new defense and a new offense for the players to learn, for the players to adapt to. And so far, I think that the signs are promising. Obviously, we did have a bit of a sticky patch, but we were missing 2 of our best players. AJ and Devontae were both out. And I think that now that they're back, the players are getting more comfortable with the offense. Saquon's absolutely balling out. Yeah, things are going well. I've got a wee shout out to Brian. Brian, come at me, Donlan. I'm coming at you, Brian. He mentioned, I think it was like just before we played the Bengals, that Hurts, he said, was just a guy. He doesn't see what all the fuss is about Hurts. He's just a guy. And I think that his performances in the last couple of games, in fact, for the season so far, have been excellent. As I said, learning a new offense. He's a young quarterback. He's only 26. And learning like Kellen Moore's playbook and a lot of different plays, very different offense to what he's been used to. So I think he's doing great. And yeah, like I said, Saquon as well. He's just gave us that something we were missing. DeAndre Swift was decent last year, but Saquon's.
Kev, was what you were missing like absolute action movie style backwards flips over hurdles? Sorry, I should say not flips.
Yeah,
That was
that run, that run. I mean, just for the slip he gave the defender before that he jumped over the other defender.
It was the just backwards jump. It was everything we got to it. It was like
He done a spin move round the first guy. I mean, he beat one guy, done a spin move away from the other guy, and then like backwards jumped over, or backwards leapfrogged over the third. Incredible. So yeah, I think really, really, really pleased with how things are going now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the season ends. But I'm expecting us to make it to the playoffs.
yeah, no, you're definitely looking good. I think I don't want to go out there and say go completely against Brian, because I also was part of the just a guy at the start of the year. I thought that he was getting a lot of benefit from the tush push, boosting his Russian touchdown kind of amounts.
Yeah.
Because he looked bloody good there, and then obviously this week I think there was another two failed tush pushes, and he had like a 21-yard, or sorry, was it a 21-yard run for the touchdown? He had a touchdown run that wasn't a tush push as well yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, if you look at if you look at his stats for this season, I mean, his passer rating is gradually increasing as the season goes on. Like I said, he had a few games there where he didn't have his two best wide receivers to aim at. He's been missing Goddard for most of the season as well.
I know he's in my in fantasy, so I know he's.
But I mean, some of the passes and catches this week from us. I mean, we did obviously talk about Wilson's touchdown, but Smith's touchdown in this game as well was absolutely incredible. Getting the 2 feet in at the end of the end zone, but he had a couple of great catches for bombs down the field. AJ Brown had a big one as well. So I just think Hurts is just his game is coming together nicely, and as I say, there's a lot more play action and movement in the offense. Pre-snap that we didn't have before, that he's getting to grips with, but it's all coming together nicely.
Definitely. Now on the other side, the Jaguars, obviously they went home unhappy yet again. What do you make of them, and where do they go from here? Because it's not looking good in Jacksonville. Did he go to London? Is that the answer? Did he just move?
pack up and move across the water? No, I mean, again, it's tough because Lawrence, he's not terrible. I think he does a lot of good things.
He didn't have the best game against the Eagles.
No,
I will say that.
I mean, the game ending interception wasn't great, but and see, to be fair, as much as I'm raving about the Eagles and how things are heading in the right direction, we almost blew it in this game. We missed the field goal attempt in the middle of the field with enough time in the clock for Jacksonville to go and score, and as luck would have it, Lawrence throws an interception and kills the game. But for Jacksonville, I don't know. I mean, Lawrence is good, but is he worth the money? These guys are getting paid now. I'm not sure. Like I said, if you gave the ball to a lot of other quarterbacks in that position, they'd have probably went and won the game.
So if Mahomes, he's marching down. Lamar, even Josh Allen,
they're scoring.
In part one, when we talked the elite quarterbacks, like maybe Joe Burrow,
Kirk Cousins, sure.
Cousins.
Aye, primetime Kirk, he's doing it but yeah, I mean, even I think I would be expecting Hurts to go and score if we got the ball in that situation. I'd be expecting Hurts to get us to the end zone. So Lawrence, as much as he looks good in spells, he does a lot of good things. maybe they're just finding out that he's not quite good enough.
Could be, or maybe, or, he's good for the league, but maybe just not quite good enough for $55 million a year.
No, per year. That's it. That's the problem. But then, if they're paid him, what do you do? Because I can't imagine there's going to be a queue of teams looking to take him off their hands on that sort of money.
Yeah, he's the guy. Like, at least as long as that contract is. Now, on that note, speaking of the guy and moving on, we're going to head to Arizona, where the Cardinals were playing the Bears, who they've been hoping they found the guy, and the Cardinals obviously have paid the guy too to see how he does. He's looked a lot better this year. So Kyler Murray and the Cardinals obviously headed out to a 29-9 victory over Caleb Williams and his Bears. The Bears, it's been weird because it's kind of been an up and down time for them, because they started slow. Defense looks amazing. Like, they started slowly on offense, but then got better as the season went on. And then the last little bit, they seem to be stepping back again, kind of thing, which is odd. Whereas Arizona, for me, they've just looked good, kind of thing, all year. They're winning their division. They're not outstanding, but they're doing what they need to do a lot to win. And Kyler Murray is being the guy when he has to be, which is nice to see. So what do you make of these two teams?
I really like Arizona. I think they're great to watch. Kyler Murray is playing really well. They missed him a lot when he was hurt. Mm-hmm. They also done great moving on Hollywood, and then picking up Marvin Harrison Jr. They don't seem, in fact, they seem better. Better for it. Obviously, Hollywood's had his injury problems as well, but I think that they're a good team to watch. They're fun to watch. They're dangerous. They can put up a lot of points on the board. And in this game, the Bears, I've not seen it all season. Like, I know you were saying they've been up and down, and certainly the win that they got in London, everybody was kind of raving and saying this is Caleb Williams, this is him, coming out. But I still didn't see it. I just thought they came up against a poor side, and things kind of just went for them on the day. But some of the wins, most of the wins that they've got, I think you can thank the defense for keeping them in those games. And sure, he still went and put up the points required to get the win, but I'm just not seeing it with Caleb right now. And this game was probably one of his poorest.
Yeah. Or if it's one of those where he still did have, like, Rome Odunze in there. Like, he's looking good. He put up 104 yards on 5 receptions. I mean, 44 of those was from one where he kind of broke loose. Keenan Allen, 36 yards on 4. DJ Moore, 33 on 4. Not huge numbers from them, but still getting them the ball, and they're still kind of moving it. No touchdowns, no interceptions either, though, which I always think with young quarterbacks, I think that's always the key part, is like, are they throwing the ball away to the other team? And if they're not, then that's still pretty positive. So I'm not going to be down on Caleb Williams after this one. It's just one of those where they just didn't seem to be able to get it into the end zone at the end of the day. They did have, because I mean, they had less offense overall than the Cards, but the Cards were doing most of their damage in the ground, kind of thing. Like Irn-Cru, 59 yards on 4 attempts. Jimmy Connor, who we've all been saying his knees were gone for about 5 years here, and he still seems to just love putting up 100-yard games all the time. So making that what you will. He didn't even get a touchdown. It was Irn-Cru, Benson, and McBride, the tight end, that got the rushing touchdowns in there, and that was where they did their damage. But for me, the Cards, they're not doing them. They're winning their division 5-4, keeping it interesting, but that's a close division. So I think as long as they keep doing what they're doing good. The Bears, they are still plus 24 net points, just because their defense has been so good. So I think your take on that is correct. And I do think if you're a Bears fan, I still don't think you should really be all that upset, because you're 4-4, you're still at 500, you're trending in a good direction. Caleb Williams does not look like a bust. He might not be
No.
Daniels, which is what you were hoping for, but he's still better than a lot of the quarterbacks in the league and is heading in a good direction. So I think they have
Yeah.
something to hold on. So I wouldn't be too upset with where they are, but are they going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. They most definitely are not, but that's, I've probably cursed it for non-Bears fans, and now the Bears will. Bears fans are welcome. But no, it's one of those where we'll just see where it goes. But yeah, no, good win for the Cards, and that keeps them ahead in their division. Staying within the division, we're now going to the Rams versus the Seahawks. Now, this game, I kind of caught the second half of this, and it just seemed to really come alive at the end there. Like the Seahawks had started off strong, from what I could tell, and were romping it, and then second half the Rams came roaring back. And then just when you thought the game was completely done, the Seahawks managed to nose ahead, but then ended up heading to overtime anyways. But yeah, like did you see much of this one, Kevin? What did you make it? If what did you make of that ending, kind of thing?
Yeah, it was an exciting ending. Like it did look like the Seahawks were done. They'd done well to get themselves back in it, and then for the Rams, it's just great to see getting Puka and Cup
Although
back in there.
you should mention about Puka taking himself out of the game. That's the one thing, like getting yourself ejected from a game.
Overeager, maybe just a wee bit overeager after missing some games.
Wild up.
We'll put it down to that and the fact that he's still young. He's a young lad, so he'll learn hopefully. But
He's not and again though. That's the only problem.
well, aye, that's that. Hopefully, he'll still be able to catch a ball next week when he comes back in. But yeah, for me, the big story here is the Rams obviously getting the win. There's been talk about them trading Cup. I think they're now saying that as long as they're still in contention, they're going to keep them. So
most definitely are. They're sitting second they're still 4-4, but they're only a game back from the Cards. So
yeah,
it's right there. And the Niners have been injured. Granted, the Seahawks are also 4-5, so it's not even like although they lost, they're not actually that far out of either. So I think that's a pretty kind of good division to watch the rest of this year because it's the teams all seem with the Niners being so injured, the teams are all really close, kind of thing. Especially now they've got their guys back, kind of thing. So it's exciting stuff. My one comment on the Seahawks, though, I am very much a great proponent of going for it on fourth downs. When you have a chance, just because sometimes you should do that. It's the risk is worth the reward. However, in overtime, when you have the chance to, basically they were sitting on fourth down, I probably would have kicked the field goal there, and then just you know what? Because then if you concede the touchdown, you've lost anyway. But at least points on the board, and it puts a little bit more pressure, and you're not just like, well, if they get down close enough for a field goal attempt, they win. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So me, I'm like, put it on them to now they have to.
Touchdown. Yeah. That's it. But I think they were just trying to keep the classic keep the ball out of the opposition's hands. They felt like we score a touchdown here, we win with a walk-off touchdown. Whereas it's definitely in hindsight is the wrong decision. And I'm with you. I probably would have said take the 3 points and then hope your defence can stand up.
Yeah, it's just because it puts that little bit more pressure on the Rams. Because whereas instead the Rams then knew they're just like, okay, cool. If we get down in field goal range, then Well, instead they obviously managed to get the touchdown to kind of win it as well. But it made it that much easier for them.
100%. But like you say, it also probably makes the touchdown score easier because the Seahawks are probably thinking they're just trying to gain a few more yards to kick the field goal.
So
they try and defend the space there and leave the space in behind. So I think it was probably poor game management for the Seahawks that cost them in that one in the end.
No, for sure. Now we'll leave that one there, kind of thing, and we're going to head off to Green Bay, where the Packers were at home to the Detroit Lions in another divisional game. This one obviously also had some kind of big ramifications. And I should have used ramifications as a pun in that last one. I missed the opportunity. Anyway, we should unpack what happened in this game here between the Packers and the Lions. The Lions obviously winning 24-14. Jared Goff, I don't know what more we can say about him. The guy's been, like, after being condemned to the scrap heap a few years ago, he has just seems to have went from strength to strength, and they love him in Detroit, and he seems to play well even when he's in Green Bay.
Yep. I mean, for Goff, yeah, it just goes to show, all of these guys, all of these quarterbacks in the league, they've all got talent, they've all got ability, and it just goes to show, if you're at a team where you're happy, you're comfortable, it's a good fit, then. He's just going from strength to strength. Have you got a statistic of this week's do?
I can't remember the exact numbers with this, but I did see something earlier about how we'll just do it now, kind of thing. So the statistic involves Jared Goff, and I believe he has just broke Peyton Manning's record from a few years back for most consecutive games with a completion percentage above 80%. I think as well.
Right.
Game where he had 81.818% complete. That was 18 off 22 attempts. So not a huge amount, only for 145 yards and a TD. But it's so he's now at 7 games, I believe, to start the year. And Peyton Manning was at 6 games before.
I've got another one. So the other one, I thought this might have been yours already, but the other one is, I'm sure I seen earlier that over the past 4 games, he's got more touchdown passes than incompletions.
That's absolutely
so.
That's high completion percentage.
Yeah, but that's the first time that's ever been done. So over a 4-game span, he's had more touchdown passes than incompletions. I think he's had 18 touchdown passes, and he's only had 14 incompletions over 4 games. It's insane. It's insane. But yeah, that's why we all love watching the Lions right now. That, and they've got two-headed monster on the ground. They go for it all the time. You talk about going for it in 4th down. They do that more than anybody else. And Green Bay are just struggling a wee bit right now, I feel. I feel as though they seem to be losing their way a wee bit.
Although it's funny, they're still 6-3 because that's thing. Because I've been feeling that as well, and I know they won last week, kind of thing. And obviously they only lost this week, but I've also just not looked quite as sharp as what they can. Jordan Love's still good, but he didn't have the best game. But we do have to say it was against the Lions, and their defense has been fairly decent. Even if apart from Brian Branch, I know. We've some folks on the crew have made some points before about Detroit maybe not having the cornerback or the secondary that they could. They're still solid, and that proved to be the case yesterday. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like they've lost their way just a little bit.
I mean, who was the other loss to? I mean, you've got yesterday against the Lions. You've got game 1 against us. Who was the other loss?
Let me just pull this up. I'd love it if it was the Bengals, but it wasn't. Let me pull these up here. So, so they beat the Jags, beat the Texans. They lost to the Vikings. So that's the issue. It's another divisional.
Yeah.
Well, they lost to them, and they lost to first game of the season.
Aye, us. I mean, when you look at it like that, they lost in the first game against us in Brazil, and then they lost against the Lions, and they've only lost the Vikings.
3 teams that you would say are playoff contenders, if not
3 playoff contenders, definitely. I just feel as though the way that they finished last season, there was a lot of hype about them, and even though they lost to us in the first game, I think they bounced back really well. And I just feel as though, that they kind of seem to be struggling a wee bit at the moment. And I don't know what it is myself. It's hard to kind of pinpoint it, but they seem to be like connecting all over the field. They were passing to or getting receptions off 6, 7, 8 different receivers and stuff, and it just seems like right now they kind of seem to be kind of struggling to put it all together again. But again, it's not a concern, would you say, to lose to the Lions? Maybe the fact it's at home.
Yeah, I mean, they would be wanting to win the home game at least, kind of thing. And obviously, want to win all your games, especially against
Yeah.
divisional rivals. But they're still sitting in a fairly strong position, and it depends where they go from there. But they do have a young team, so the fact that they have that young team and they have 3 good receivers like Reed, Watson, and Romeo Dubes. It's like they all kind of Reed had the biggest yesterday, but they have weapons. I think
Tucker Kraft's been an excellent pickup on tight end as well. So yeah, I mean they do have it. I think to be fair to them, it's what you would expect from a team as young as them, because they're if they're not the youngest team on average age in the league, they're like one of the 2 youngest in the whole league. What you would expect for a young team like that is for a little bit of inconsistency, is to be a little bit up and down. I think it's just that they were so good at the end of last season. They were so consistent, towards the end of last season. They got that massive win in the playoffs as well. And I just feel like a wee bit of a surprise that they're now starting to kind of have that little bit of dip. But having said that, like you say, their record's good. If they can carry on picking up wins the same sort of rate that they have been, even although they're not at their best, then that's probably another great sign for them.
I think just the last point on them is it reminds me a little bit of what we were saying about the Texans in the first in the part 1 of the review crew here, which you can go back and check out if you're only listening to this one now. Go listen to those early games, or what we said about those early games. But yeah, they remind me a little bit of the Texans too. The same thing, like great year last year, good offense, good young quarterback, but maybe just not quite as consistent yet as you want them to be. But definitely, I think the Packers are looking good. And now that kind of brings us to the very last game, also staying within the division, because one of the teams is from there, the Vikings versus the Colts. So this was, you had the Joe Flacco led, again, Indianapolis Colts making their way up to Minnesota, where they have this, Sam Darnold in at quarterback, who's been kind of the toast of Minneapolis for a bit here. Whether he's taken a bit of a step back recently or not, he's still been good enough to win games. The Colts obviously making their change at quarterback with Richardson. Had a few weird comments last week, mainly the main one being like he took himself out of the game because he was tired. Like, you don't say that to the press, kind of thing. It's like it's not really showing the right attitude, or what you would expect from your starting quarterback. Like, you might say it in private to the coach, or like maybe you talk to him and just go, "Okay, I need to work my conditioning a bit more because I'm not quite there." Or like, and you think that's fine, throw in the veteran, throw in Joe Flacco, but now there's a bit of an. Obviously, they now have a little bit of an issue that they need to deal with in the media. But Joe Flacco comes in, the Colts fans get their hopes up because they're thinking, great, gunslinger Joe, he's going to be able to do his. Because everyone I saw in the build-up to this, it seemed like Indianapolis thought they actually had a good chance at kind of win here. Obviously, it did not quite transpire the way they wanted.
No, definitely not. And I think, Richardson getting sat out. I don't think they had a choice, like you say, because he came out and said that he took himself out of the game because he was tired, or he said I'd done a lot of running, so I needed a rest. That's like you can't then start on the next game. You've got to make that change, I think, and I think they have been good in flashes, and they were, like you say, hoping that Flacco could get them going and maybe be a bit more consistent. Because they've got like good deep threats there, and like Pierce and Downs. But yeah, it wasn't a great game. In fairness,
It's
and
slow to get going for sure, kind of thing. So I remember
yeah,
it was a bit of a
really.
trudge, like through that. For
Um,
actually, almost had a bit of a nap during the first quarter because there wasn't really all that going on.
yeah, but,
But
I think when the Vikings managed to start getting Jefferson into the game, and you would expect then that they would just have too much for the Colts, and that's how it proved to be. But the Vikings they're still ticking over pretty nice.
yeah, no, they definitely are. I mean, like you say, Jefferson there, 137 yards off 7 receptions. They also had Addison, 42 off of 5. Then rushing wise, like his yards per carry maybe wasn't great, but Aaron Jones 64 yards. They were moving the ball. That's the difference I see there. Is like the Vikings had 29 first downs to the Colts 13. So
Yeah,
it's more than twice as much. 415 total yards to 227. It was just the Vikings were way too much for the Colts on the
yeah,
whole. And despite going
yeah.
in 7-0 down at half time, as soon as half started, the Vikings basically just went, okay, yeah, let's do this, guys, kind of thing. It's time to
Yeah.
take a screw.
Let's start chucking it to Justin.
Yeah, it's like we're better than them, so let's prove it, and prove it they did. It was only 21-13 in the end, but this is one of those ones where it's 21-13, but to me it felt more like it was 21-7.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it felt like more than a one score difference at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
I agree totally. It was a surprise in the end that it was so close in the scoreboard because, the Vikings definitely were superior and comfortable in the game.
Yep, and that leaves the Vikings. So they're sitting second in their division behind the Lions after the loss the other week there. They're sitting 6-2. And so just a game ahead of the Packers by virtue of having played or lost one less, but having played one less game as well. The Colts, though, they're actually, again, their division isn't great. So that obviously helps them a lot. They're sitting second, 4 wins, 5 losses. Pedestrian, middle of the road for offense and for defense as well. So I'm not really expecting all that much out of them, but it's one of those things where they're probably going to hang around the playoff kind of conversation to the end purely
Yeah,
because they have the Titans and the Jaguars in their division.
yeah,
Texans, Texans are obviously the class of that group kind of thing. But
uh
yeah, the Colts, it's one of those where they still have good players. Like you said, they've got good young players, and
yeah,
I think this was always going to be a building year. So they can still look at this year and go, you know what, if we finish the year, I mean, 8 and 9 is maybe a disappointment, but 9-8, missed the playoff just. I'd still say
yeah,
that's a success for the Colts.
yeah,
They're trending
yeah.
up kind of thing.
I, I think it depends as well on how the quarterback situation develops as well. If they do finish with that sort of record and Richardson's looking good,
Yeah, there's
then
less
that's definitely a positive season for them. I think, but with what happened last week and we're sitting out this game. The concern would be if they do finish with that sort of record and then there's still doubts over whether Richardson's their guy, then what kind of season has it been if all they've learned is the quarterback might not be the guy. So be interesting to see. But like you say, with the division that they're in, they should be looking to get that sort of record, and hopefully get Richardson, a good amount of experience, and start picking up a few more wins as well.
Yeah. And then just like last comment before we kind of go here, but the Vikings from their side, like they have to be happy. Like the one down spot I would say is like looking at their record. They're 3-2-0, which is still winning in their last 5. So those 2 losses have came in the last 5 games.
Yeah,
But at the same time, though, I look at it and go, okay, well, even if they go 500 for the rest of the year, or if they go 4-5-0, they would get 10 wins. 5-4-0, 11 wins. It's like that's still probably going to get them in the playoffs. And
yeah,
never mind the fact that Darnold was really only meant to be the backup kind of thing, or just the stopgap until JJ McCarthy's ready. And right now, I'd say you're still completely on plan for Darnold. Maybe does it for this year and next year, and then McCarthy has been kind of developed in the background for that. So
Yeah, well, I mean that's the the dream scenario is what you're saying there. Talking about your young quarterback and how you're looking back on your season. If they can get to the playoffs with Darnold, and then JJ can start to sit behind him and start to learn, then that's huge for the Vikings. That's it. That's great success. But yeah, I think when you look at the division that they're in, it's a really exciting division, and to be in the spot where they're in right now is excellent. For that division, and I think they're going all right.
So just one last thing before we kind of do our wrap up here and close it. There's one game still we've made it through all the games kind of so far, but there's one game still to go this week. And I know we usually do this in the preview crew, but seeing as it's happening tonight in a few short hours, the Bucks versus the Chiefs. How do you see that one going? Just all we need to do is pick one team as a winner.
We just fast forward to Kid on It's tomorrow morning. We'll review it. So, so reviewing last night's game, the Bucks against the Chiefs, outstanding performance for Baker Mayfield. Unfortunately, with the injury problems that they've got at wide receiver right now, coupled with the Chiefs' defense being so good this year, I can't really see much other than a Kansas City win. I would love for the Bucks to beat them, but as long as they just chuck the ball to Orton loads, because I did trade for him. I did trade for him after Evans went down, and then obviously Godwin as well. But no, I think it'll be. I don't want to say a straightforward win for the Chiefs, because
a lot of the wins haven't been. Is the one thing
No,
they've done it the hard way quite a lot. So I mean, the thing is though is they're 7-0. So to me, I'm looking at it going like they're 7-0. They've only conceded 123 points. Not quite as good as the Chargers, but without those weapons that you talked about there for the Bucks, I can see the Chiefs winning this one, and I think it's going to be 23-20 or something like that. I'm rating pretty low kind of thing. Like,
yeah, I would go for a low scoring game as well, but I think I would say maybe more like 20-13 or something like that.
Aye. Yeah, that may be useful. Watch this. So that's a stick it on, take the over, and any it'll be 55-52 to the Bucks, because we're both saying the Chiefs are going to win. So basically, my thing with gambling is always do the opposite of whatever I say. It's pretty much the way to go. But anyway, no, Kev, that's been absolutely fantastic. Like, we have been the review crew as part of the Gridiron crew, and you've made it through 2 parts. This is part 2. It's just wrapping up now. As we always say, we will get you. The crew will get you through, and we'll have another exciting week of football coming this week, and the preview crew will be coming on Thursday into Friday. Thursday live, and then Friday kind of dropping the recorded versions. But Kev, just want to say thanks again for your time and your insight.
Thanks very much, Stu. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Yep, no, good talking to you as well. Anyway, we have been the crew, and we have got you through. We'll see you all later.